Hello everyone and welcome back to the channel. As I'm sure you can tell from the title, what we're going to be doing today is we're going to be restoring some carbon fibre. Now what I've got here is a pillion cover from my very broken Triumph Speed Triple. Now this is a very old piece of carbon fibre composite. It's very worn. We've got a few signs of age and wear on here. We've got the carbon fibre weave coming through. We've got highly polished areas from where my jacket's been rubbing against it. We've got deep scratches and we've got faded areas. The only thing we don't have on this, what you might have, is cracks. Now, to restore this item, first of all, we need to understand how the item's made. Now, carbon fibre composites are made not with traditional clear coat. Usually, they are made with a layer of resin, so you'll have the carbon fibre mould, a layer of resin will be put in first, and then your carbon fibre weave will be put on top of that, resin, carbon fibre, and so forth, until you get the desired thickness of the carbon fibre. So this shine, what we see on the end product, is the resin. Resin's quite shiny. It sometimes may get a slight machine polish at the end. However, now we've got the weave showing through on here, we know that we're pretty much out of the top layer of resin because we can see the weave and we can feel the texture of the weave. So to restore this, we can't machine polish it because we'll just end up putting polish into the weave, then we'll have white dots all over the item, which would be very difficult to fix thereafter. So what we're going to be doing is we're going to be adding a layer of clear coat. Now what that'll do two things for us today. It's gonna take away the dullness where the sun's faded it. It's also going to add more mass onto the item, so we're going to fill in some scratches, we're going to fill in this carbon fibre weave, and it's also going to add a bit of longevity for the item so we can machine polish it again in the future. It's got more protection from the sun. That being said, a little bit of a disclaimer. This, what we're about to do, is almost a botch. Now I don't mind doing this botch on aesthetic pieces, just like this. This has got no structural integrity for the bike at all. Now, if you had some carbon fibre wheels or a carbon fibre bucket seat in your car and it was showing signs of this age and stress, I probably wouldn't recommend doing that because carbon fibre has a shelf life, and if you've got something that you really rely on, like wheels for example, and it's looking like this, your clear coat's not going to add much strength to it whatsoever. So it's usually past its shelf life date. We can usually get a little bit longer out of the shelf life date than the motorsport industry because we're not pushing it to the extremes, and I know people that have got carbon fibre wheels that are out of date by 10 years, and if they're looking fine, that's their prerogative. However, for this, we're just doing this job on aesthetic pieces. It's up to you what you use your skills on, but for me, we're just going to do this carbon fibre pillion cover, follow us through the steps, and hopefully at the end of this video we'll both have shiny looking carbon fibre pieces that we can be proud of. So the first stage of the process is to clean the item, which we already have done. We've just used some detail cold waterless wash, wipe the area down. Now what we're going to be doing, we're going to be taking some 800 grit sandpaper, and we're just going to be rubbing the item all over to put a key into the item so the clear coat will adhere to it correctly. Now we're not going to go too deep here, we just want to put an all over key and take off any high spots that we do have, but we're being very wary where the weave's coming through. We don't want to wear through the weave, so we just want to have a nice key there. So basically we're mainly focusing on these really shiny points where the jacket's been rubbing. So we're at the stage now where we've got an even matte finish all over. We've taken all the high spots off. We've now wiped the item down with solvent to just remove any contaminants from the area, and now we're going to go on to the clear coating stage. I'm just using standard clear lacquer from our favourite store, Halfords. The first coating is going to be a very light dusting on the item just to get the initial adhesion in there. We're going to be spraying from about 15 to 20 centimetres away, nice and light. We're going to fill in these edges first and then we're going to go on to the middle. Always go for the edges first because they're the hardest bits to get. If you do the middle first and then the edges, you'll end up with runs. Just lightly dusting it on. And also just around the where the holes are at the side, we'll get them ones first as well. And now we're just going to try and do some continuous passes. All the way across the item. And that should do us for our first coat. So we're on the third coat now. It doesn't need any rubbing down at all. I was expecting a lot more stuff to land in the item while it was outside. However, there doesn't seem to be much in the air. We'll obviously give it a rubbing down at the end of the process before we do our final finish, but we're doing much thicker coats now, starting from the edge again, but we're laying it on quite a lot thicker. So we've just laid down the final coat of clear coat. Now we did that one a little bit too heavy and we've ended up with quite a substantial run here. It's quite good that I've got that because now I can show you how to get rid of it. I've left this about a day. On my last coating I put it on slightly too heavy, and what the result of that is that I've got run marks just on the side of the piece here. I'll try and get a close up in there, but if you've got a similar thing, you'll know what I'm talking about. Now the way we're going to take these run marks out is we're going to use some 800 wet and dry sandpaper. We're going to add a bit of waterless wash as lubricant, and we're just going to work those areas. It shouldn't take too much work with 800 grit. If it's not too big, you can start on 1500, but I've got quite a big run here. So I'm just going to take some 800 grit sandpaper, rub these edges down just to get rid of these bulges. Like I say, it's nothing too major, but because I want it to look right, I'm just going to take these points off now. So we'll just give this a slight dusting, and we'll just work on these edges. So now, as you can see, that's all the high spots taken off from where the run marks were. I hope you can see that in the video there. So what you're going to be left with is this very matted area. That's from the 800 grit sandpaper. So now we need to take those very fine scratches out. We're going to use 1500 grit sandpaper now. So you should be at the point now where you've got a pile of used 1500 grit sandpaper, a piece what looks worse than when you started, and you'll be covered in loads of dust. Now don't worry, because this is all part of the process. If you've got a uniform matte finish just like this all around the piece, then you're ready to move on to the next grit of sandpaper, and it gets easier from here on, I promise. So we're going to be using 2000 grit sandpaper next. We're going to go all over the piece again, and this is in attempt to remove the 1500 grit sandpaper. It's harder to see when you remove the 1500 grit sandpaper because it's quite a uniform finish now. You haven't got any visible scratches there. So we're just going to be mindful and work in small areas, and once it's done we're going to move on to the next area. Same again, wet and dry sandpaper, give it a wet the piece, and we'll just start rubbing the area all over. So now that's the 2000 grit sandpaper done, and we've got a slightly less matte finish now. It's starting to get a little bit of shine back. So now we're going to move on to the 2500 grit. Really, you could probably machine polish this out. However, if we do the 2500 grit or even 3000 grit after that, it's just going to make the polishing bit a lot easier. And as I'm going to do this by hand today, because I understand most people don't have a machine polisher, I'm definitely going to use a 2500 grit. If I had 3000, I'd probably use that as well. But the same process all over again. A nice square of 2500 grit, and just work it around the areas just to take them 2000 grit scratches out. So we're at the point now where we've completed the 2500 grit stage. Like I said before, if you've got 3000 grit you can go on to that point, but now we're at a semi in between gloss and matte finish with this piece now. So the next stage is we're going to clean the piece with a fresh microfiber cloth. Don't use the one that you've been wiping down the piece with for the past hour. A nice fresh cloth. Don't use thinners at this stage because your paint might still be well, it will more than likely be too soft and you'll take your clear coat off. So at this point, don't use thinners on this at all, or any kind of solvent. It won't go fully hard for about 2 weeks. So once that piece is now cleared and free of any debris, we're going to move on to the polishing stage. I've got some Maguire's speed cut here. This is designed for removal of 1200 grit sandpaper, so it should have no trouble getting this sort of stuff out. It should make light work of it. I've got another fresh microfiber here. I'm just going to fold this up and almost make a pad with it. I'm going to put a couple of dabs on here. For this first one, we're just going to massage the product all over well, we're going to select a side, so we're going to do this side first, and we're just going to spread the product out. You can already see the the item's starting to shine a little bit more there. So now we're at the finishing polishing stage. I'm using a G10 finishing compound here. Same again, we're just going to make an applicator pad style out of this clean microfiber. Apply a light bit of polish on there. So this has got less abrasives in, but still got some abrasives because we need to take out the slight abrasion from the cutting compound. And we're just going to use the same method, but we don't want to apply much pressure at all with this. And you can already see there, just from that one pass, it's making that gloss pop a lot more than what the cutting compound did. So it's easy to get fooled and just leave it at the cutting compound stage, but I assure you, you'll reap the rewards from using the correct finishing compound on the piece. So we've completed the finishing polish stage now. We're at a very good finish. Now comes the important bit. We need to protect our finish, what we've got. Now today I'm going to be using some detail coat sealant spray. The aim of this is, we've got fresh clear coat on there. It's quite soft still. Even if it was hard, we'd still protect it, just like we wax any other pieces on our bikes or seal any other pieces on our bikes. So I'm going to just spray this on. I'm going to be quite generous with this, as the piece is still relatively porous and it's its first coating. I'm going to be using a clean microfiber towel, and we're not being aggressive at this point at all. We certainly don't want to put any scratches into this piece after we've spent this long polishing it. So we're just pulling the sealant off the piece, letting it sit there in its pores. Now that's that piece complete. I'm more than happy with the finish of that. I hope you are too. Just a point to note on this pillion cover, I won't be able to use this as I've chopped the rear end off my bike. So what I will be doing is I'll auction this piece off. All proceeds will go to charity, the Royal British Legion to be specific. So I'll link that eBay listing down below. Also, if you're interested in any of the products that I've used today, for example, the high quality microfiber towels and the sealant, I'll also link the website below. If you did enjoy the video, please do subscribe. It's a massive help to me, and I appreciate all the support that you're all giving me at the moment. Thank you very much.